Can you hear me okay? All right. So
Yep.
so we got cut off because
Yep.
censorship. Round or part two, drawing the line
Part
in the
two.
sand. I think it's important to go after how, right? I think
Yes.
drawing the line in the sand is the same as creating your boundaries,
Yes.
um, uh, and really digesting what the behaviors are and what they should be relative to whatever that that is, right? If you decide that no matter hell or high water, I'm not going to quit on ABC, then you just absorb that and you're going to continue to push forward no matter what the cost because quitting is not an option, right? If you've ever said that, congratulations, because that's a line in the sand,
Yeah.
right? Nowadays, it's very very hard to draw lines in sands because people flood the beaches with their bullshit, and
Oh
you
my.
can't even see the sand anymore, and that sucks.
It
So
does
all you
suck.
have is to reflect on yourself and who you are and your self awareness and what you know that you want to you want to get done. And mind you, it's not absolute. It's absolute. It's a commitment, but it's not absolute. Unless you're perfect, right?
Yeah.
God doesn't deal in absolutions. The other
Mm-hmm.
motherfucker, that motherfucker down there with the horns and shit,
Mm-hmm.
that goat looking son of a bitch, he deals with absolutions, right? That's no good. That type of shit right there is what gets you in trouble because we're human and we are absolutely not perfect.
Right.
Okay. So if you're going to draw a line in the sand, just because you compromise, uh, it doesn't mean you're sacrificing a belief or your goal. What's it called? A non-zero sum game, right? It's not a compromise. It's like a non-zero sum. It's you understand that through the intrigue of knowing you want something and you acknowledge that you may not know how to get it, but you understand at least that it's not that way or not this way. It's not at a loss. What you're not sacrificing things that you know to be good. You're just sacrificing things. You're sacrificing the moment that you could really fuck something up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, for the betterment of benefit of the doubt. To say if I'm not going to quit, I know I'm not going to quit on this fitness goal. I'm gonna not try but do my best in the kitchen. I know that my life is crazy. I may not be able to get an hour of workout every day, but I will get a workout every day, whether that's a 15-minute quickie or that's 10 push-ups or that's da da da. Like that's your compromise, right?
Right.
And you start to build momentum that way. From momentum that's where your motivation is derived, and any of that, all of that, only comes from the decision that you made because you were inspired. You
Yes.
knew who you are, you knew where you want to go, and you were able to make an informed decision about it because you knew at least what you didn't know and you knew what was bad
Yeah.
because it wasn't working. You were already in a spot that you recognized that you needed to change.
Right.
So that's to me how you have to figure that out. You have to decide what are the things that stopped you in the past for
Yeah.
anything. I don't give a fuck if we're talking about fitness or we're talking about jumping ship to a different career, which I know you could speak
Mm-hmm.
on,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Well, and that's
Or
just
you
the
can,
thing. Like when I did that, I knew my goal was to not be in a 9 to 5 anymore. That was my goal. Because when I had my second kid, they told me number one, I had to ask permission from the school board to take longer than 6 weeks off, which in my head, I'm like, listen, I spend my life helping to raise your kids, like you on the school board. Your kids are the ones sitting in front of me every day.
yeah, but
Like
that was your choice though.
100%. And I don't, absolutely, I agree with that. But at the same time, like, can I like go have one myself? 6 weeks is not, and I know there are people everywhere that have to go back after 6 weeks, but I mean, to me, the part of it was asking permission. I don't want to ask your permission. Like, if I want to
That's your
stay home with my
millennial
newborn
ass.
baby, what?
Millennial. You're
I
a
know.
millennial.
If I want to stay home with my newborn baby, I want to be home with my newborn baby. I don't want to have to ask you for that.
Yeah.
I wasn't allowed to take sick days. So like if I didn't have enough sick days, because long story, but when if I say I had 14 weeks of sick days, I was only allowed to take 6 weeks of them. So all those other sick days, I just had to be home unpaid. I couldn't use my sick days to be out with my kid. There were just a whole bunch of things that I'm like, I'm going by standards that are set by somebody else. I have standards for the kids sitting in front of me. That's why you hired me, because you know I have high standards. You know I'm going to meet them, and you know that I know what I'm doing. That's why you hired me. But still, you're bogged down with all these standards from other people who have no idea who's sitting in front of you, who have no idea what your day-to-day is like, and yet you're being judged based on what they deem as standard. And I knew that I didn't want to be in a position like that anymore. I didn't want to be part of the people planning the things. So I needed to get out. And I originally thought I was going to do that with my network marketing position, right? I thought I was making as much as I was making as a teacher doing that. But you start to realize like, well, that's not really for me either. I'm still dealing with all these things coming down from other people who created, I'm still at somebody else's will.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And so when the opportunity came here and I got into it more and we started working together more and I started to get my footing here, I was like, what am I doing all this other stuff for? This is exactly what I was looking for, you know, something where I could be myself and do it the way that I wanted to. Right, and I say I mean, like, you know, we've done all of this together, like, but we share the same types of views in that. You know what I mean? So it's like,
I gave you had something that a lot of folks don't leave the part. And this is not to say like, I'm not looking for any kind of like applause here, but the one thing that you had that was drastically different, because again, let's go back to what we were talking about. Boomers would have a different viewpoint on a lot of the shit you said. Right?
Yes.
Then blue collar workers would be like, no, you go to work and like, you know what I mean?
Yes.
You had somebody like in me that gave you the freedom to live by the course of your own actions.
Yeah.
Like when you manage shit though, like the school board, I'm not an advocate for the school business model at all.
Yeah.
Okay. It's, you know, how else you're going to manage everybody with their own opinions, like, but to set those precedents. Now, federal and state law is what it is. And while, you know, from what I understand, at least the schools are governed so loosely and independently per, you know, the board and council, that you have a lot of different hands in the pot, which is what made the whole masks and shutdowns and shit for the schools such a clusterfuck, because you got everybody trying to mandate shit, which mandate does not equal law.
Right.
At all. Right. And it's what does that even mean? So you know, when you came and you were talking about, oh, I have this schedule, I got to take my kid here, this, that, and the other. I told you, change the schedule.
Yeah.
Here's what'll happen if you do it. Here's what'll happen if you don't. If you do it and this happens, and I gave you the tools to decide by yourself. Now, I was willing to risk the business drowning against your fiery ambition. I recognize the ambition. I've seen it in myself. I know what I wish I would have had and what I tried to do when I used to work at Lifetime. And it never worked, because while you were given certain freedoms and bigger boxes, freedom is not something that can be given. It's something that must be taken. That is fucking huge.
Yeah.
Freedom is not something that can be given. It is something that has to be taken. Right? It's not a gift. It's not something, congratulations, you're free.
Yeah.
No, motherfucker, I was always free. Right? But you have to be willing to take the shit with the good. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so, you know, people don't realize that it's so much more than the bad times when they do the leap of faith, when they do the lifestyle change. and they know, and the crazy part is they're numb to the facts that unhealthy living has only one outcome,
Yeah.
only one.
Yep.
Right? You better have some strong ass friends that can carry your fucking casket.
Yeah.
You keep on going this route, right? And people will still choose that under the soft, comfortable blanket of oblivion.
Isn't that crazy? I mean, and listen, that's
but we understand why. So is it crazy?
it doesn't feel
Which
like it.
part of it? The
Yeah.
fact that they do it, or the fact that they know it and they do it anyway?
Well, and you know, that's something that's like when you think about body positivity movement, right? And just like love yourself
Hmm.
however you are, and it's like, I mean, you shouldn't be sitting there hating yourself, but at the same time, like if you love yourself, then you want to take care of yourself. I think it's real easy to take a body positivity movement and turn it into a blanket, a cover for number one, not wanting to face the hard stuff that you know you have to do, like changing your lifestyle, or to hide from the fact that you feel exactly opposite, right?
Or if you're that person, body positive, okay. All I would ask is do your due diligence. And what I mean by that is go to your nearest fucking hospital, find that some bitch who's 500 pounds overweight, who's ready to die, and ask them if there's would you change anything at all if you had a chance?
Yeah.
When you're young, you got 40s and 50-year-olds that are 2 days from dying because it wasn't because they were body positive, but because they didn't want to look. They didn't want to, whether they were scared or didn't know. They didn't make that change, and now they're gonna fucking die. Ask them, talk to them, and say, was it worth it?
Yeah.
Right? You got people who are living free, the hippies of the world, that are over here talking about you want to be in a world that's just detrimental to health with poor choices and drugs and whatever else it may be, or just living so fucking free that you end up with no help at all because the world's going to, when the world decides to change its mind, it's not going to ask you for permission.
Right.
And you're going to have to fucking deal with it. Go find those people and ask them, was it worth it? Would you change anything? And if you pause for even a titty hair of a second, you need to rethink some shit.
Yeah. Yes. And you have to decide if the boundaries you have drawn for yourself at this moment in time, if they are rooted in what you truly believe or not. A lot of making those boundaries for yourself is not just putting the fancy quote on your wall that says, something inspirational, but it's truly believing what that means and following it. Like we put out a reel yesterday about immovable objects and unstoppable force. Did I put that one up yet? Yeah. Yes, I think I did. And you said something like,
thanks for tagging me.
I did tag you.
Bitch. I know. I don't remember seeing it.
It says something like, a justification for a pause is when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object. Now, here's the thing about being an unstoppable force. If you're unstoppable, then by nature, you cannot be stopped. It is impossible to prevent you from stopping. When you hit that immovable object, you find a way around it. You find a way over it. Find a way going the other way. Either way, you're going that way. You're going forward. Now,
and let me ask you something. When you heard that, what was the object you first thought of? Immovable object. Okay, don't make something up. Like, what was the first thing you thought?
I'm trying to go back to the moment.
A rock or a tree or what?
Oh, like literal. A giant boulder, like a big concrete.
Almost everybody thinks of rock first.
Really?
Everybody thinks of immovable object as a rock or a stone or some kind of
like
heavy thing.
Those big red concrete spheres in front of Target.
A big old fucking stone, a rock, just right. That's everybody in them. And isn't it funny that's like, I knew that we didn't talk about this.
No, we didn't, clearly.
But so it's right. It's not coincidence that I knew you were going to say that. Mm-hmm. Now, here's something else. When married couple, right? Mm-hmm. And I mean, traditionally speaking, husband and wife, married couple. Husband dies. Mm-hmm. What does the wife usually say? He was my what?
Rock.
He was my rock, right? because it's sturdy and it's this immovable object, this rock, right?
Uh-huh.
The problem with rocks is that they fucking sink, right? Throw them in, they sink.
Yeah.
So they are movable. Okay. I would rather be the unstoppable force.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
Like the water. Like I'm not trying to be all Bruce Lee on you. Be like, what am I? Right? But you can change who the fuck you are. You can be consumed. It can be drinking. It can be drunken. What is it?
Drunk?
It can be drunk, whatever. It can also tear holes into the size of the earth. Right? It can kill people. It can give life. Like that's an immovable object. That's an unstoppable force. I would much rather be that. And you can do that when you decide for yourself that, that line in the sand and you're aware enough of that particular scenario. Like if I say this, I'm going to lose 35 pounds. Imagine to yourself, if I were to say that to my bunco friends, what kind of response would I get? Which one of my friends would be the sarcastic one? Good luck with that. Which one would be the pretend like I'm in it? Where are you going to go? Let me join with you. And then they never fucking will, because it's always, they're going to say some shit about the money, or it's going to be something. They're always going to find something, right? Oh, what days are you planning on going? Right? Which one is going to be the friend that knows it all? Oh, I've heard about that place, or I've done it, because there's always one of those.
Yep.
And then there's which one is the quiet one that really doesn't say anything at all? Because that's the one that probably wants to join with you, but is too fucking afraid to say anything. If you can go through your support system and pick out your characters that way, you'll probably see that those people, there's the same circus of friends at work. There's the same in your family. And the only common denominator is you. You are the one that put yourself in that position. You just didn't realize you were doing it because you were fucking comfortable, right?
Yep.
So when you decide to draw that line in the sand, I would suggest the first place to start is do the thing that's uncomfortable and start from there. What's easy for me? Do I stay in bed, or do I get up and go through fucking hell on earth for a 1/10 of a mile? And I had already decided that today was the type of day I was, every day lately I've had to fight mentally to stay focused on shit, because I've got so much going on. But I am not going to let that be an excuse, because you know what? You got a lot going on. Shit, my 6-year-old has a lot going on. You know what I mean? I hear them both telling me every day how much they miss their old home, and I fucking hate that.
Yeah.
And Fallon is asking questions like, why did we have to move? And you know what I mean? Yeah. I'm just starting to ask these real questions, and like I did with me, I'm not lying, and I'm just like, because we need to move to a place where we believe that other people understood that there's a difference between a man and a woman. And no one's going to come take my guns away. And those things that we were forced to put on our face, like your used underwear we had to wear as face masks, when Fauci himself is saying that hot shit, like I wanted to be in an environment where you were no longer subject to that. And us being unvaxxed, we were no longer being oppressed, because that's exactly what was said. We were being shamed for it. And my line in the sand was to justify and explain why we're doing what we're doing. But I was willing to have that conversation because I knew it was coming. So if you're able to see those things finished in advance, and you're able to see them coming, it kind of marginalizes the risk, and you can really make a better decision on what kind of line you should be drawing.
Yeah, absolutely. And because you were so firm in why you wanted to move, you've got no issues explaining it. You know what I mean? You've got no issues sticking to it, even though the process was like excruciatingly difficult every single step of the way. It was some new shit, right? Like, but when you have a very clear reason, a very clear, true understanding of why you're doing what you're doing, then you're the unstoppable force that's going to go around every single one of those, whatever the immovable object is. And
it's got to be strong enough to fight the things that would normally come and detract you from finishing the goal, like money.
Yes.
Is it going to get expensive? Yes, probably. Just assume it's going to cost you out your ass. What's the trade-off? I'm going to live. You got kids and that don't resonate with you, you're an asshole. Well, I got to pay for little Johnny's fucking cleats. Fuck you. Goodwill. Go get some Goodwill cleats, save the money, and then go fucking handle it.
Like that saying I'm seeing this all over social media right now. You always say you would die for your kids, but would you live for them? Like, would you really live for them? And that is a powerful one, because it flips that perspective. And people think that if you say you'll die for X, Y, and Z, that means you do anything for it. But would you though? Like, cause you're not.
Yeah.
And
imagine that same scenario. You died because you didn't get your body right. You didn't take care of your health. The honest, if you're being honest with the kids and someone were to say, why did mommy and daddy die or whatever? The honest, being some people honest, or they were sick, their bodies failed them, right? The truth would be, well, they died because they didn't take care of themselves.
They didn't take care of themselves.
Is that a truth that your kids are willing to hear? Like, are you able to say that to them?
Yeah.
And if you are willing to say that to them, congratulations, go fuck yourself. You're a terrible human being.
And
you're going to look at your kids in the face and say, this bag of Doritos is more important than taking you to the daddy-daughter dance or walking you down the aisle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm going to do that instead. I don't think so. Because if you're hearing that and you're saying, oh, fuck, I've never thought about it that way. Good. Use that, drag and drop, and find something that really connects with you. Because when you do that and you start getting that itch inside and it's like, ooh, I think I could be onto something, and it's different and it's uncomfortable.
Yep.
Change is never comfortable.
Yes.
Never.
And it's one thing to say you're the unstoppable force, and it's another thing to be the unstoppable force. Like, you can say you're an unstoppable force all day. You could write it on your wall. You could put a little Post-it note on your computer. Make it the background on your phone. But if something comes up that makes you quit, well, then you're not an unstoppable force.
If you're arguing with everything we're saying, and you're just I'm not gonna draw a line in the sand. I'm gonna dig my heels in the sand because I want to be the immovable object. Now you just sound like a stubborn shit.
Mm-hmm. If you're going to draw a line in the sand, you got to do it by knowing where you want to go, how you want to get there, and who you're doing it for, and why you're doing it, right? You can't.
And you got to be pissed off for greatness. Otherwise, you're okay with being mediocre.
That's right.
Ray Lewis said that. Anyway.
That was a good one.